In our yesterday session, we understood more about validations, like how we are validating the request body content. So it's a common requirement in every application because whenever we are working with real-time applications, whenever we are implementing the APIs, okay, whenever we are creating the APIs, REST APIs, API developer, as a API developer, we have to perform always validations also. So how to perform validations means what are the required fields, what is the expected size, what is the expected format. So these are all details we have to validate actually in every API implementation level. So if you are not validating, what is the drawback? For example, assume, sir, no. So what is the point of writing these validations in the backend? So most of the times, what people will say, validations will be done by the front end level. So validations are implemented by front end team. Front end implementation. So that means by using HTML, JavaScript, all these things, yes, they will write validations. Whatever the validations generally in front end level we used to see, generally those are all comes with respect to front end implementation only. So if you see here, Facebook point of view, whatever it is, create new account. The moment it is asking first name and all, if you are not giving that information, see it is saying like, what's your name showing in the red color. So that means it is asking us, making it as a mandatory value. So this validation and all this red color showing all these things are implemented by the front end only. The moment you are clicking on this sign up button, then the real call will go to the backend. The real call will go to backend until and unless, until that time, the moment whatever the data we are entering here is all part of front end only, right? Okay, that's cool. So maybe validations will be implemented. By why we have to take as a backend developer at a API implementation level, is it mandatory to take? So this question people will ask, is it mandatory to write validations or not? Validations or not? Yes, it's mandatory. The reason is why I'm saying like it's a mandatory point of view is, okay, if you take an your API service, if you implemented APIs, REST APIs, REST services, API, REST API. So your services, who knows? Your services may be integrated by front end applications as well as some other Python applications, some other Spring Boot applications, some other .NET applications. Anyone can call your REST services, right? So in such cases, we have to make sure the data coming, the request data coming to our REST services level is always a valid data. See, simple guys, if you are thinking in a common sense point of view, see, if everything is good, then proceed with further process. If something is wrong, don't proceed with further process. So that means why, for example, assume in this case, first name is missing. You don't have a validation. You don't have a validation, but first name, last name, they are not entered. They are not entered, and still they submitted the request. Then what is the drawback? What is the problem in that case? Unnecessarily, if you are not rejecting that request as an invalid request, first name, last name is missing, but we need 100% first name and last name. That's mandatory. But still, the client is not sending that first name, last name. So when you don't have a validation, what is the what will happen in that scenario? Unnecessarily at our controller layer level or service layer level, we realize like first name and last name is missing. At our service layer level or repository layer level or controller layer level, if you are accepting that request as a valid request, and the moment you are started executing the logic, after executing some logic, then you will realize like first name and last name is missing. So that means in the middle of execution, we will realize like something is missing, the mandatory data. Then we will realize, okay, something is missing. So then let's reject it as a invalid request. Instead of that, what we are doing, before entering into logic execution itself, we are validating all our mandatory data coming or not. If all our required data came, then only you are proceeding with further actions. Then only we are proceeding with logic execution. If something is missing at least one property, then immediately we are saying like it's an invalid request. Please send valid request. Then only we will proceed with logic execution. So what is the advantage of with this? You are unnecessarily for a invalid request, for a wrong request, okay, which doesn't have proper data, you are unnecessarily entertaining those requests. We are unnecessarily not entertaining. We are okay, those requests, invalid requests, even though the request doesn't have any valid data or it is having invalid data, we are not entertaining. If everything is good, then we are entertaining, okay, go and proceed, execute the logic like that. So that's how you can start eliminating the invalid things, invalid request, so that you can start eliminating the logic execution for invalid requests, even the moment you are implementing the validations. And as well as clients will have a clear clarity, clients will have a clear picture. Oh, okay, this is what we have to follow when we are sending the request. Okay, this is the minimum 5 letters, maximum 40 characters. Like that, even they will also have an idea. So the moment you are sending this error back to the client, then he will realize, okay, let's make next time onwards. Even now, what front end team will do? They will also make, for example, assume front end team. They will also make like, okay, minimum 5 characters, maximum 40 characters like that. They will also write their own validation. So double validations you are doing. Front end level, by mistake something, the data is came back to back end, then you are having protecting or you are validating that request as a valid or not based on these conditions. So it's so that's why as a API developer or whenever we are implementing the basic, I mean whenever we are implementing the REST APIs, it we have to take care of validations also on part of as part of every request body. It's a good API development approach. If you are feeling lazy and if you are ignoring it, nothing will happen. But unnecessarily, see, that's what yesterday we saw, right? Even though we are not sending any data, even though we are not sending any data, but still controller is accepting that as a valid. How it is possible? Usually in sign up, 100% you need first name, last name, email ID, password. So mandatory properties definitely will be there. Even though you are not giving anything, but still it is accepting as a valid request and it is proceeding further. But after some point of time, you got the logic. So if you see here, after some point of time, we will realize like, okay, this is an invalid logic. When you got an exception, some exception at that time. Instead of that, why can't we reject at line number one itself by checking each and every value came or not as part of the request body? Like that, why can't we do that? So see here now, if I am sending the request, what it is saying, accepting as a valid request, 200 okay, and it is taking all null values and it is inserted all nulls in the DB. It's not a good thing, right? Or tomorrow if you are doing any operations on the last name first name point of view null values level, you will get null pointer exception. Then you will realize like, okay, it's because of null data came from the client, so we have to restrict the nulls like that. So instead of that, if you are added validations here itself, then what will happen, it will validate each and every required data coming or not. So you are protecting your APIs from the bad data. Simple. Okay, simple. And you are unnecessarily not entertaining service layer, controller layers, repository layer logic if for a bad request also, right? So it's all common sense. Generally, when you are applying any things also, when you are going to some other things also, what they will do, they will verify all our information. If everything is good, they will say like, okay, enter into the, okay, maybe whatever it is, if it is a interview process or whatever it is, they will cross check all your documents and everything. If something is missing from the checklist, what they will say, so you missed this document, please come back with that document, then only we will allow you to the interview process, whether it is a visa interview or whatever it is, right? So cross check will happen, checklist cross check will happen. That is what validating. So as a first step, instead of directly allowing a person into the interview panel room level, into visa room or passport interview, whatever it is, what they are doing some validation, basic validation. Okay, this candidate came, are you having all the proper documents in place or not? If everything is good, then they are allowing to you to access that panel, and then panel people will take everything. If something is missing, then they will tell, hey man, sorry, we can't allow you. The reason is you are missing something, come back with all the required information, come back with all required documents like that. So same point of view here also, We are not entertaining bad data requests whenever we are applying the validations. That is what the simple rule. These are all rules you have to explain whether validation is mandatory or not, means you have to take care of that. Okay, so this is all about validation point of view, what we discussed yesterday. And please practice it. It's a good thing. And now let's come back to today's session. What is I'm going to discuss right away is, see, as of now, we discussed the stories all around request body from last 1 week, right? So that means with respect to request body, what we understood, how to prepare JSON payloads, okay, how to write Java classes point of view, and JSON to Java, Java to yeah, JSON to Java, Java to JSON point of view, mapping point of view. These are all details we discussed. Writing Pojo classes, all these things. And after that, what we discussed, validation, yesterday's class, how to validate the request body point of view. And yeah, so these are all details we discussed so far. Yeah, Jackson, JSON, object mapping, these are all details we discussed. Okay, cool. Right? And out of all these things, we discussed one more point of one more thing also, that is create operation. So what I said earlier as part of our previous discussion, how to decide HTTP methods. Based on that, what we understood earlier, if it is a create operation, nothing but if you are making any insert query execution in the DB level, if you created a new resource, I said what is the resource also I explained you already. Okay, so don't say like in REST API terminology, we will use a word called as resource. We will use a word called as resource. So what is a resource and all? I explained you already. Yeah. So this is what are REST APIs, and we used to call it as a resource. See, in this case, resource point of view, I already explained you. Resource is nothing but what at the moment if you are operating with products, product is a resource. See, created a resource means what it is. For example, if you created a user account, so that means in this case, user is a resource. You created a product, you added a product to the DB. That means in that case, resource is what, product is a resource. You created an order, placed an order. That means a new record is inserted into DB as order got created like that. Then in this case, order is a resource. So to generalize all these terminology, to generalize all these things with respect to real-time applications point of view, we are using a word called as resource. Now, for example, if I said user accounts point of view, I said resource ID. Resource ID. That means email ID. Products point of view. If I am using resource word, what is the resource ID? Nothing but product ID. Nothing but product ID. So that means in this case, product representing as a resource, user representing as a resource, order representing as a resource, okay, bank account representing as a resource, person representing as a resource, as a generic terminology point of view with respect to REST services. Okay, so now from this overall point of view, what we discussed, HTTP methods point of view, we will discuss post. We taken as a post. Yeah, sorry. Okay, similarly, what we discussed, code operations point of view. So if it is read, if it is a read, that means select query. So the moment select query, you are selecting the resources, loading the resources means get, right? Yeah, similarly, total read and update. Update point of view, we discuss like post. Sorry, put here, and delete point of view. So if it is update query, and it is delete query, delete db operation, and then we decided like till. So these are the four operations point of view. We segregated four HTTP methods like. Now so far we discussed this operation. If you observed or not, every day we are using post mapping. Why? Sign up request. Even in our previous examples also, while creating the order point of view, all this point of view, what we did, if you taken here also, what? Sign up operation, post method. So why sign up? User object getting created for the first time, right? Even if you taken this one also, open project, go to controller class. So what you did, order details. You are creating the order. First time you are creating the order. So insertion query will happen. What method you taken? Post method we taken. So that means we completed this operation as of now. We completed, we taken a lot of examples with respect to create point of view and post method point of view. When you will go for create means it's all about, I mean, when you will go for post mapping is it's all about based on the requirement and it is demanding create, you will go for the post. No. Second operation, let's come back to the read operation point of view. Okay. So let's come back to the read operation point of view, what we have to do. Some guidelines will be there. We have to follow those guidelines. Again, here it is. So we are done with post, right? So that's all post. Let's come back to the get operation point of view, what we have to do. Okay, so let's concentrate here now. Okay, so generally, if you observe our real-time applications, whatever we are using, let's see here. I'll show you something and just concentrate here. What is the meaning of get operation means? Loading the data, simply loading the data like that. So how many ways you can load the data? I mean, how many ways means what are the possible options of loading the data? Load all users. Okay. Load all profiles. Load all products. Get all orders info. So get profile based on profile ID. Get profiles based on city and gender. Get products based on price and mm, price and brand. So yeah, I'm taking in general all the requirements point of view. So what you observed from here. Now, if I ask you the question, what is the difference between this requirement versus this requirement? So what is the difference between in this case? I'm finally we are doing all get operations only, loading the data. So what is the main difference between these two things? One of the difference. If you taken this, what is the difference between first one and second one? So the first one is talking about what? Loading all profiles. For example, assume you are having 100 profiles information. Okay, your application is having 100 profiles. All are 1000, okay, 100k profiles or whatever it is, whatever it is. So in this case, load all means what? There is no criteria, no criteria. That means no condition. You don't have any condition in this case. Blindly, I want all the profiles. That is what first one is saying. Second one is saying what? Same information only, but based on a criteria. Based on a criteria. Based on a criteria or condition. What is that condition? What is the criteria? What is the condition in this case? Based on the profile ID. Based on profile ID. Based on the profile ID. So that means if I given a profile ID Dilip, okay, IT Academy, something like that. So then it should pick up only Dilip IT Academy profile. It's okay, search for this profile ID. If okay, if found all info, if not written as not known, something like that. So this is what we have to do that. So here the search criteria is what? Based on the profile ID you are searching, and you given a profile ID called as Dilip IT Academy. And if that profile is existed, get the information about all the information about Dilip IT. If not, written as that profile not found. So that means in this case also read operation, in this case also read operation. But here you don't have any criteria. Here you have a criteria. Here you have a criteria, right? So that means what's happening in this case with respect to get operation point of view, with respect to get operation point of view, your criteria will change, your requirements will change based on the requirement. Sometimes there will not be any condition. Sometimes single value you have to pass, and based on that value only you have to get it. If you taken the next one more requirement, this one. Yeah, let's take like this. Yeah, this one also. Okay, so let's take here. Now this one. What is the criteria you are having? What are the conditions you are having in this case? It's all based on price, range, price, and brand also. Brand also. So that means in this case you want data by involving two criteria, two conditions, two values. One is price and second one is brand. So that means my intention is within the range of 1 lakh, show me Apple products. So that means what is your intention here? It is what your application is demanding. You have to give a flexibility. We have to give a flexibility in this cases. Okay, so within this price range, I want Apple products like that. So your search criteria is what in this case? Your search criteria, price and brand. So sometimes you are involving no values while you are loading the data. Sometimes single value, sometimes more than one value, sometimes more than one value. So that means when you are working for the REST API implementation also, so whenever we are doing this kind of read operations, get operations, load operations, so you will have different criteria, different scenarios where you don't have conditions, where you have single value and it is a mandatory point of view, and where you are having like more than one value you can pass like that. So to yeah, we have to achieve all these kind of scenarios when you are when you are okay working as a real-time application point of view. We have to write all the APIs, or we have to achieve all these scenarios. So how to do that? In this case, get operation point of view. So as per REST API standards, as per REST API standards, REST API standards, as per REST API standards, okay, we have to define resource IDs, okay, for specific get operations. So that means what is the meaning of resource ID here? It is in this case, profile ID is a resource ID. What it is? Resource ID. Why? In entire Instagram level, you know that profile IDs are always unique. Even though millions of users are there, profile IDs are unique. Similarly, if you take in the Gmail point of view, so Gmail ID is a resource ID in this case. So Gmail ID is a resource ID in this case. Why? Because resource ID point of view, if you given Dilip at the rate something like Dilip Singh 1306 at the rate gmail.com. So that means what it is? It is all about a unique email ID in entire Gmail server level. So it's a resource ID like that. So based on the resource ID point of view, we are getting data sometimes. Here you don't have any resource IDs. You are getting all the resources, but you don't have any IDs. You are not giving any input IDs, but you given one. Here you given 2, 3 values. Sometimes 4, 5, 10, 15, 20 also will pass. And based on the all conditions, I want all the data. If you observe here, go to, yeah, so just see here now. If you observe the real time applications, what is this, guys? How you got this? Okay, let's leave it. It's Facebook, right? Yeah, even Facebook also fine. Leave it. See, you given what? Facebook.com/Dilip IT Academy. So what is the meaning of it is you are looking for a profile called as Dilip IT Academy from the Facebook. So yes, Dilip IT Academy, there is a Facebook profile and it got loaded. It got loaded. Now if I given A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that. And I am checking for a profile ID with this. What it is saying? Not available. Not available. So if I'm giving again Dilip IT Academy, I got all Dilip IT Academy information, right? So if I given anyone else, I don't know other things. If you given any someone else IDs, let me try some randomly. Yeah, if anyone is having, I don't know. Yeah, if anyone else IDs you given something like this, you may get it. Suresh 123 or whatever it is, I'm not sure. So if you have profile, you will get it. See, yeah, someone else is having Suresh 123 profile, right? So you got that profile information. Why? With this resource ID, with this Facebook ID, we account is existed. So with at the rate Suresh I 123. So that's why you got here. You got here. If not there, not found. If there, it found. Similarly, what? Instagram also, right? So that means now these are all called as Facebook IDs. I'm calling it as a resource IDs in this scenario. Now, even if you take in the Instagram point of view also, okay, let's take Instagram. So why what we are passing here, Dilip IT Academy, right? So now see, I got all Dilip IT Academy information. If I given another information, something like another ID, so I'm getting something like this. What it is saying Instagram, sorry, don't available. Maybe. Okay. So now if you see here, I given wrong or maybe whatever it is. Now see here, you got what? All Dilip information. You got all the Dilip information. So that means what's happening in this case? Now these are all IDs acting as a resource IDs. These are all IDs are acting as a resource ID, right? Point number one. Now let's open the Flipkart. See, in this case, you are not creating any accounts. You are not creating, you're just loading the data, which is already available on the Instagram servers level. You're already just loading the data, your images, your profile information, your videos, and everything. You're just loading the data. So if you go to the Flipkart, also open the Flipkart. Now, see, it is what? Flipkart.com, right? Now I'm clicking on the mobiles. If you observe here, something what you are seeing, okay, it's a API call, mobile phone stores and all. I'll come back, guys. This is what we are going to learn now. This question mark symbol, under symbol, what is this? This is called as request parameters, query parameters and all. That is what we are learning. Now, what I said earlier, brand, the moment I selected Apple brand, if you observe here, if you observe this URL, this is what I given intentionally. So what you observed here, you are doing the search operation. And in this case, what you are observed, brand equal to Apple brand. Brand is all about Apple brand. So that means sometimes what will happen, you are selecting brand, you are selecting the rating, okay, and you are selecting something like RAM size, battery capacity, all this thing, right? Secondary, primary camera, I want this much in the Apple phones. So that means what you are doing, filterings. brand, front camera. Okay, so what is your front camera range, and what is the uh, review ratings you are expecting more than 4 star? Those only those products you want. So that means based on this all these criteria, based on all this information, what you got the result. You got the result. If you want, you can observe from here developer tools. So I okay, so you can, yeah, somewhere you can find out. I can't. See, somewhat, not this one. But anyway, you will get response as a JSON. This is all the story what they implemented. I'm not good that much with front end guys. That's why. See, ultimately search. Okay, let's search for the payload. See what you're sending. Brand equal to Apple. Rating equal to 4 star above. Primary camera point of like you're sending some data. Based on all this data, what you're getting, the information response you're getting. So that means in this case, what you have to understand, you are doing different types of load operations, retrieval operations in real-time applications. In real-time applications. So for example, if you go to the Instagram again, if you click on your reels, what will happen? It will load only reels related to Dilip Singh profile. Okay, so let me try that. See why I'm taking all these things is these are all familiar. In our day-to-day life, we will use all these things. That's why I'm using these examples. See what happened now when you given only Dilip Singh point of view, what you got until this URL. Okay, what you got all Dilip information, including photos, reels, and everything. The moment you clicked on reels, related to Dilip Singh reels you got, right? So like that. If you are clicking on posts, so it is a default home page. So something like tagged, someone else did the tag, then you are clicking on the tag. So that means with respect to Dilip point of view, it is a tagged one. So the data is changing. The look and feel is changing means from the backend point of view, you got all the tagged information like that. Okay. So why I'm showing all these things is even if you open the YouTube profile. Now what is this profile? So this is a profile name. If you observe here profile name. If you given someone else profile name, it will come though that profile information, right? If you given, I think I'm not sure. Facebook, no, not there. Yeah. See, you got all Instagram, YouTube channel. From the YouTube channel, you got with Instagram level, whatever the YouTube channel you're having, you are. So that means it's a unit getting all that information. Now, if you observe here again, if on streams, I'm getting live streams. If I'm clicking on videos, I'm getting videos. So that means what are all these operations, guys? These are all load operations. These are all get. So I shown you a lot of operations till today with respect to our day-to-day operations point of view. Now, how to send all these resource IDs? Now, the point is, okay, we are sending me underscore Dilip Singh, Dilip IT Academy, and we are sending brand name Apple. Okay, these are all information we are passing from front end to back end. Front end to back end. Now, when it comes to API implementation point of view, so as a backend API, as a backend development point of view, so while we are implementing the REST API, okay, while we are implementing the REST API, what we have to do? How to accept this data? With respect to load operations. With respect to load operations. Yes, here you have two concepts, guys. Two things we have to understand very carefully. One is path variables. Path variables. Second one is query parameters or request parameters. Query parameters or request parameters. Give me a second, man. Yeah, query parameters and as well as request parameters. So query parameters and request parameters is the second option. Both are same. Or one more is path variables or path parameters. Even sometimes people call it as. Give me a second. Just a moment. Yeah, sorry. Okay, so path variables are path params. People will call it as parameters, params, shortcut point of view like that. So these two, by using these two informations, we have to implement the REST services for load operations point of view. For the load operation point of view. See, even path parameters you can use for update operations also generally. Okay, I mean these values you can use generally for update point of view also the path variable concept. But anyway, mostly load operations point of view. First, let's individual point of view. What is a path variable? What is a path parameter? We have to understand now. So then we will go for query parameters and request parameters point of view. We'll go and then we will discuss what is the difference between path variables and query parameters or request parameters also. We will understand as a conclusion after all these two topics. So now let's take a basic requirement first. Then I'll involve one by one path variables and path parameters, request parameters and everything. Okay. So what is my requirement is assume you have a table DB level and already accounts are existed. Some users information. So what I will do, maybe I don't know whether I have a project or not, but anyway, I'll create freshly. Not a big deal for all these concepts. So what information I'll capture here it is name of the person, email ID. I'll write name, email, and password, and then mobile, and then city. Mm, I'll take more at a time. Or can I take product information, product ID, product brand? Okay, let's take like this. I'll take products information, like Flipkart point of view, like that. Okay, product ID, I'll take some product ID, unique point of view, product name, and okay, let's take like this, no problem. Age, gender. I don't want age. I'll take gender. Mm, user information only, age, gender, and then qualification point of view. Then mm, I'm covering all the things so that I can cover at a time these two point of view: name, gender, city, country. Mm, email point of view I can get. Mobile point of view I can get. City point of view I can get. Country and city. Qualification, gender, city and gender, country and gender. Okay, so let's take basic information only. Then you can add more properties when you're practicing. Okay, I'll collect all this information first and we'll create some user accounts quickly. And then we will start doing the loading the data with respect to different scenarios. We will do that. So what I will do quickly, I'll create the create operation. I'm not going to explain you what I'm doing. Okay, REST services. It's all about we are dealing with path variables and query parameters, request parameters or query params. This is the concept. And I'll take Lombok JPA driver web validation. You can add. Now I'm not considering more about validation point of view. You can add, finish it. Okay, meanwhile, I'll copy paste the properties. Okay, fine. So I just copy pasted the DB properties also. I'll keep create like that. And then what I will do, okay, request class. Then I think it's better to write quickly instead of copy paste. Okay, so cool. So yeah, I have all DB properties. Let's start writing the things quickly. Yeah, let's take first request body class. So what are the properties we decided? Let's take all the properties here. So I have name, email ID, password, mobile number, name. Okay, I'll take as a full name instead of all this. Username like that. I don't want this email ID. Okay, mobile number. Okay, password. Okay, age. Okay. I will add age also. No problem. Then country, qualification, gender, city. I want these four properties. So city point of view string. Gender point of view also okay. Qualification point of view also okay. So I will allow only, I mean, I will make sure like allowing only just like a higher UG comma post graduation or something like that. Whatever it is, country. Okay, like that. Okay, so fine. So this is my request body. And then what I will do, I forgot to add Swagger. Okay, let's add Swagger also so that the JSON payload will be given by the automatically Swagger document will gives me. Mhm. Even you can watch what's happening in the Swagger also. This path variables and all, those are all displayed in the Swagger API documentation. Okay, cool. Save it. Then go to create the controller class. Users, user management controller class, and I'll create in the controller package. See how much time it is wasting when you're taking the new application, but it's okay. REST controller, and then first create, because we don't have accounts, right, to load it. Create users, point of view, I'll write post mapping. Okay, so the path is slash create user, and here I'll take a user, sign up request, create user. Okay, cool. So I'll add later here, or I'll do user service dot create user, and I'll pass user sign up request, and I will do one thing, user service, user service, and auto wide, whatever it is. Now I'll create a class user service in the service package. Okay, so it's a service class, and then what I will do here, create this method in the service class. Okay, cool. And then take a repository, fine, and then create this repository interface, and extends JPA repository, and take entity class user sign up, oh sorry, users information, user details, or whatever it is, and I'll consider email ID as a primary key. So let's create this class now, entity class. Then it's a entity, and I'll utilize this as a Lombok data setter getters, and I will use this as a table. See, if on finder you should be in this position, guys. You can write like this in a sequence of point of view. So table name I'll take equal to, I'll take like Dilip IT underscore user, something like that. Table name. So then I'll copy all these property names from the request class as it is. I'll take. Okay, so username. Username is his name actually, name point of view, and then username point of view I'll consider. Okay, so here email ID I'll take it as a primary key column point of view. So I'll write here as @ID. Okay, cool. Okay, then entity is ready, controller level, all changes are ready. Yeah, so finally you will get the request here. You are passing to the controller layer. Okay, it's all you know the story. I'm not going to discuss much about it again. So here repository dot save of entity object you have to pass. So let's make entity object. What is our entity object? User informations info equal to new users information and info dot set email id equal to um, request dot get email id. Okay, so then set email id and then set pass name. I'll take first get name. So it's all mapping from entity to DTO to entity. I told right, it's the best practice. I can utilize direct entity also, but we don't do that. Set city, get city, set age, get age, age we are done, city we are done, country we are not done, get country, age we are done, city, country, email ID also completed, gender not completed, get gender, mobile number, yeah, get mobile number, so mobile number done, name also completed, password, no, get password, and we have qualification is the pending one. Set qualification, get qualification. Okay, fine. So finally I'll pass entity object called as info. So it will store. Finally, user created successfully. Okay, you know that find info, all these things and all you can write if you want. So better point of view. So find by ID, if it is already there, user already existed like that, you can write the response. But I'm not taking all those things. Okay, so finally string. Okay, so let's create user accounts quickly. Until this part, let's test our logic is also executing or not. Okay, meanwhile, I'll open this Swagger. Localhost, double line, double, yeah, user management, create user, try it out. So from here itself, I am trying directly Dilip, Singh, and I'll give like Dilip123 at the rate gmail.com, and mobile number I'll give, and then password also I'll give like Dilip123, age I'll give like 30, and city I'll give Hyderabad, and gender point of view I'll give like male, qualification so I'll give like PZ, I'll give country like India. Okay, so create the account. Yeah, user created successfully, and see in the DB level also data got inserted. Okay, let's create couple of accounts first of all. And I will do one thing, I will comment this line, otherwise table will be deleted if okay, fine. So let's insert more information similar to Dilip only. I'll give like Suresh, some mobile number and password, age, city, Hyderabad only I'll give, mail only I'll give, qualification as undergraduation, point of view I'll give, India. Yeah, user created again successfully, fine. Now let's go and give at least 5, 6 users we'll give. Okay, so something I'll take like a name called as Veena. Okay, so age I'll just take like 28 from Hyderabad and from female, under graduation. Okay, so execute. Yeah, one more record is inserted, and I'll take something like Alice. Okay, so I'm just taking like, and country is UK. Under graduation, I'll take it as a male. Okay, I'll take one more person, Bob. Okay, so I just created a couple of users accounts. We can add later also based on our requirement. First, Dilip uh, tables. We given Dilip IT users, right? Yeah. Yeah. So I given all the accounts. Now let's start looking into at least path variables. Okay, so let's come back and start with the path variables. Yeah, finally, I have some data. I assume like this is 500 records, 1000 records, or something like that. Like that. Now it's all about my first requirement is load all users information. What is my requirement here? It is simply load all users information. I want all the load. So in this case, the requirement is I want all the users information. So that means there is no such criteria in this. I mean, there is no criteria, no condition. All the users. So what you have to do? So based on this requirement, what we understood, it's not a create operation. It's a read operation. So the moment it is a read operation means get method you have to take. Okay, cool. Let's go controller. Okay, so let's take the requirement, right? So let's write get mapping. Public. So what is the return type you have to discuss now? Get all users like that method name, and then return based on the thing. We will see that. Okay, return we will write replace it. Let's take get mapping, and then followed by what slash load. I given a word called as load users simply. Okay, so see here load users and all. And now tell me in this case, in general, how many users information you will get, single user or multiple users? As a response, you will get multiple users. So that means more than one. Simply what I can say guys, more than one user information. There is a possibility of getting more than one user info. The moment more than one user info means in Java point of view, what I can say, list of objects, list of objects. So that means response will go. So the response type, what I have to define now in this case, list. List of what? DTO response objects. Response object. But I am not creating the response class. So what you have to do is, please create a response class guys. To do item is, please create response DTO class. Okay. And then in service layer, please convert entity to response classes. This logic you have to write, because if I started writing this, then it will take only mapping point of view, it take lot of time. Objects, you have to do that this time. But I will utilize entity class as a response also. At controller level, I will utilize entity, but it's not recommended. So that's why you just do that on your own, but I will use it. Okay, so it's not recommended, but you have to do that. Okay, so I will use list only, list of what entity information, because I don't want to do the transformation. Okay, so entity objects I'm taking. So in this case, what I will do, I'll call the service layer. So do you have any data in this case, any request? No, that's what I'm trying to say. It's a generic call. There is no condition. There is no input data. I want all users information available in the DB level as it is as a response. That's all. There is no input. I'm not saying like belongs to this city, belongs to this age, okay, belongs to this email ID. No, I don't have any criteria in this case. Simple point of view. So that's why in this case, do we have any input data? No. So there is no data. So that's why there is no request, nothing else. Simply I created like this. There is no request body and all, nothing is there. Okay, cool. Now, second point. I given the endpoint also based on my requirement point of view, load all users, something I given it. Now what I will do, I'll call the service layer dot load all users. Like that, I'm calling a method. So, and this will return always list of entity objects. So I'll create this method in the service class. Create method in the service class. Yeah, I created. Now in this case, what I will do? User repository dot find all. That's all. My work is done. But what I said, guys, generally you will get here list of entity objects. But you have to make sure list of entity objects converted to response objects, and then return list of and then return list of response entity. That is what you have to take care. Please practice all these things. This example I shown you in the last class also. You take care of it. But for time being, I am returning as it is list of entity objects only. Okay, you have to do this. To do item. See the move why I am writing to do, you know that. So here you have an option, show view tasks. So wherever you return to do, right, starting with to do, that will be shown here. So if you are clicking on that, then directly it will take you there. So that means generally, whenever you want to do something in future, you can write to do lines in your Eclipse. So then it will show you in the task list. So that if the moment, that is how generally people will write to do lines. That's why I'm writing. So here from now, for example, You can say list of to-do items, what you have to be done in your project. So like that, you can write the to-do lines. It's all just like a bookmark point of view. Okay. So like that. Okay. Now see, let's execute this service. Refresh the Swagger. You got load users, right? So response type, Swagger document is showing as what? Array of JSON objects. Array of JSON objects. Okay, try it out. Execute it. You don't have any data. So directly you're executing. Now what you got, guys? All employees information you got. All employees information you got. If you want, you can take this URL from here, and from the postman also you can send it. Get request, send it. You got the response. Can you tell me, can I send this request from browser, guys, directly? Is it going to work? This URL, if I am sending, hitting from the browser URL location, is going to work, or you are going to get any error like not supported or something? Is it going to work? So if it is working, why? What is the reason? How it will work? Yes, it's a get URL. From the browser level, whatever the URLs we are sending here, it is always get only. So it's a get, so that you can only this one you can see from here also. See, you are seeing the same thing from here also. So same thing, Swagger, REST client, this postman, point of whatever. So it's all what all these information. You got email ID, Dilip, all the information you are getting as it is. This is requirement number one. Now next requirement. Okay, this is very straightforward. Now let's go to the requirement two. Another requirement. Get user information based on email ID. Based on email ID. Now, can you tell me what is the search item in this case? So do we have search input, search criteria? Yes. So input is what? Email ID. Email ID. Now can you tell me as a response how many objects I'll get, guys? Probability point of view. How many objects I'll get? Probability point of view. Min and max. Yeah. 0 to 1. 0 to 1. Why? If email ID is found, one object. If not found, 0. Why 0 to 1? Email ID is a primary key column. We made email ID as a what? Primary key column. Right? So if you see here email ID point of view, it's a primary key column. So email ID is a primary key column. We maintained it as a primary key column point of view. So that's why you will get only one. So now let's, okay, cool. Next point. Yeah, so understand now. Now you're coming into the path variables concept. Let's concentrate here. So now you have one input value sending email ID always from client to now client is sending what? An email ID as an input, like for example dilip@gmail.com. This data should go to where? Backend. Backend in the sense our REST API level. Right? Now as a backend developer, to deal with this scenario, whenever input value, incoming value coming as a single email ID value, how to implement the REST service? How to implement the REST service? Now, for example, let's see here. Third requirement point of view, I'm writing the REST service. Even you can take nothing. You can take everything in the controller. Okay. So based on this, I'm writing a logic. See here, public void get user by email ID. So method names also write meaningful method names, guys. So here it is get all users, get user by email ID, like that, write meaningful method names. Okay. Okay, cool. So here you will get something, and we will replace it. Okay, so I'll take one entity object only, user information. Mostly I'll get one entity object or else I'll get null. Return null. Okay, okay, fine. So it's all the stories about here. So see here, get mapping. You decided as a get mapping because it's a read operation. It's a read operation, so that's why you decided as a get. Okay, that's why get mapping. That is also fine. Now slash load. Okay, URI path I'm defining slash load slash user. Sorry, user based on the email or whatever it is. User info or whatever it is. Somewhat you made here it is. So now how will you receive this email ID? Can I create request body means yeah, I can create request body. Now the moment I mentioned as request body, what I have to do guys? Do I need a Java class or not? So whenever you have a request this time, even request level you are going to send a data also. In this case, you are always get a data email ID as a you will get always email ID value as part of the request. As part of the what you will get request. So that means in the REST API implementation level, if I taken as a request to body to map this email ID property, do I need a Java class or not? Do I need a Java class or not? Yes, because that is what the annotation request body, right? So the data what comes as part of the request body, it will make sure. So that means in the payload level, you will send like this one, colon, email ID, colon, value, Dilip at the rate 123 gmail.com, something like that. Dilip at the rate gmail.com, like that you will send the email ID. Now the moment you created a Java class, something like whatever it is, then what will happen? That Java class of Java object will be created. This is the scenario. We know that with respect to request body. But okay, if it is one requirement, fine. Now next requirement I'm giving like this. Get user info by city. All users information I want only based on the city. So that means if I given here HYD, tell me how many objects I'll get. One or more or zero or more. Simply I can mention like zero or more. If city is matching, sometimes you may have more than one account. Right? If you see here, from the Hyderabad city, you are having already have a lot of users. Yeah, three users are there. If I given Bangalore, zero. If I given Hyderabad, three. If I given London, two. So that means you may get zero or more point of view. Okay, fine. Now again in this case also, what is the input value you are sending from the client to REST API level? City value. So that means again in this case also, if I prepared JSON payload per city point of view, city colon something value like Hyderabad, Bangalore point of view. Same way, what you want one more request body class. One more request body class. One more request body class you want. For what? Dealing with the city property. So that means, are you going to create a new Java class? Creating new Java class for this requirement? If you are doing that, then same thing you have to do for this one also. You have to do same thing for this one also. So that means for every small things point of view, if you are doing a request body concept, you have to make sure maintaining always request body classes, and you have to make sure creating new Java classes for one property also you have to do with that. So it's very difficult, right? So that's why in this case, what we will do is we will not use the request body concept. To get the data from client to server level when we are implementing the REST API, we will not utilize REST API concept. Sorry, we will not utilize request body concept. What we will utilize is, in this scenario point of view, we will use path variables. Path variables or path parameters, both are same. Path variables or path parameters concept, we will use it. What it is? Path variables. So now see, I'm giving you some information about path variables. Let's understand. Path variables or path parameters, both are same guys. Okay. So what it is now can you tell me in this case email ID, can I call it as a resource ID? In this specific scenario, can I call email ID as a resource ID? Based on that means resource is a user in this scenario. So based on the ID, email ID point of view, you are getting the user information, nothing but resource information. So can I call it as a resource ID? Yes. So that means path variables are used to share resource IDs. Resource IDs. Okay, path variables are used to share resource IDs. Path variables are used to share resource IDs with the APIs. Okay, or as part of API, okay, we are going to use path variables for the concept of exchanging the are used to share resource IDs with APIs. So that means what in this case path variables is saying is instead of you are creating again a separate Java class, separate request body, all this nonsense point of view, what it was trying to say is don't use any request body in this scenario. When you are reading data based on something point of view, you have to go with path variables concept. So why they given a word called as path means, let's see the syntax. So what it is saying is, it will come as part of URI path. Path variables, I'll give one more point. Path variables defined always as part of URI path. URI path. URI path. So what is our URI path we decided for this? Load user, right? So let's take like this. This is the URI path we are trying to decide, right? Now in this case, here you can define the syntax wise, you will define like this guys. So URI path you will have slash. So this is the path variable. Path variable. Path variable. So this is the path variable you are going to define. So that means curly braces while implementing the REST services. Now what I can do is slash you can maintain a path variable like this. Something like email ID. What you are mentioning in this case is, let me give you one more point. Path variables are defined as part of URI path and enclosed with curly braces. With the curly braces. With curly braces. Generally, what is a variable, guys? Variable in Java, what we learned, variable is all about container of a value. Container of a value, right? So that means variables store always values. Now in this case, the moment you are implementing the REST service, your input is always only one input value in this scenario. What it is, email ID. So let's define path variables directly at URI path level itself. You have to define a variable. See, if you are giving this, no, it's not a path variable. It's just like a fixed URI path, standard UI path, fixed URI path. So load user info email ID is just like a path. There is no variable in this case. In this path level, if you want to make email ID as a path variable, then you have to make that inside the curly braces. Now in this case, this is a standard always fixed URI path, but email ID is a variable. Email ID is a path variable. So that means in our REST services point of view, now what I'm doing slash, I'm creating a variable called as email ID. What is that? Email ID. So now in this case, this curly braces is representing what? a variable. It defined at what path level? It defined at URI path level. That's why we are calling these variables as a path variables. So in the URI path level, you defined a variable. You defined a variable. So you defined a variable. So that means whenever a user sending, client sending a request in this scenario, so this is how you defined, right? Finally, the moment you defined a path variable like this while you are implementing the REST service in our backend point of view, Spring Boot point of view, whenever client sending the request, how to send the URL localhost colon double eight double nine slash API slash load slash user slash info. Understand the point, slash info. Until that info there is no variables, but after the info variable what you have, email ID you are having. Okay, so I told to the client application, hey man, email ID is a path variable, like that I told him. Then what he has to do is here, in this case, he has to send always a real data. He has to send always a real data like Dilip at the rate gmail.com. Dilip at the rate gmail.com. Similarly, what will happen in this case? Next time, if you want Suresh information, Suresh at the rate gmail.com. If you want some other person information, so that means what you have to observe here, at this email ID level, you have to send always a real value. But load user info, this is all common. You are not defining it. It is static path. It will not change. But email ID level, you have to pass always a value. And please remember, note here it is. While passing the value, no curly braces. You observed or not? But when you are implementing in the our REST API level, when we are accepting the REST API level, you are using curly braces. Why are you using curly braces? If you are not using curly braces, then it will become as a static path. It will become as a path, not a variable. To represent it as a special variable out of the path, you are going to define email ID like this. Okay, cool. Now a person sends request like this. Localhost colon double eight double nine slash API slash. Okay, so this is the URL, right? This will become your URL. No, right? So in this case, what's happening is a person will send always in the email ID place. We have to send a real value like Dilip at the rate gmail.com. Dilip at the rate gmail.com. So now Dilip at the rate gmail.com coming into this email ID. So that means I can give you one more point. Path variable is a placeholder, for a value inside URI path. So what I'm saying, inside URI path variable is a placeholder. It is holding some place for the real value. So after info, if you observe, I given the real value. So it's holding. Now, what is the variable name you given that you have to define in the method parameter level, like at the rate path variable. Okay. So org.springframework.bind path variable. What is the variable name you define, guys, here? Email ID. In the curly braces, what you given? Email ID. So that you have to define here. Path variable name is email ID. And here you have to take a method argument name. Something like email ID, like that. So that means what you are trying to say here it is, in this case, what I'm trying to say is, whatever the value comes as part of this email ID, like Dilip at the rate gmail.com, Suresh at the rate gmail.com, Naresh at the rate gmail.com, ABC at the rate gmail.com, ABC at the rate yahoo.com, whatever it is, comes always as part of this. Any request trigger this endpoint. Whenever they send a real value, that value always stored inside what? In this variable. Now whatever the value available inside this place in this variable, that you have to bind it to, we are binding to the method argument method argument level. So that means what we are doing, binding path variable value to method argument. So what is the method argument? I taken string email id. So how do you say that if it is path variable, right? So here before this method argument, you have to take a variable path variable annotation, and here you have to define that path variable name. What is the path variable name? Email id. So tomorrow if you given here xyz, then it will be xyz. If you given abc, it will be abc, like that. So the path variable what you define as part of this curly braces, that you have to define as part of this annotation, and then you have to use always a method argument. That's all. Now the story is done. So see here, what I will do, service user service, right? Yeah, user service dot. I'll create a method again in the service class, and I'm passing what? Now finally your data came into this email level. So now let's pass email to the service layer, and it came to service class. If you observe here, it's all service class now. Now from here, what you will do? User repository dot find by email ID. So it's anyway primary key, right? So directly I'm passing the email ID. Okay, it will return always optional object. I'll do one thing. Is present. Okay, let's do one thing. It will return always optional. We saw this in the what JPA itself. Optional of what? Entity object. So it's pure JPA. From here it is again pure JPA. So then if user info dot is present, then return user info dot get. This operation we are doing from JPA onwards. It's not new today. Else, that means if there is no record, then you'll get the null generally. Optional as empty. That means return null. Return null. Okay. Okay, here semicolon. Okay, fine. So this is how you return the service class. Service level, you know that. Now come back to the controller. See, that's all. Your service is done. Now, as a REST API developer in the backend, we created a path variable, and that path variable we defined at method argument level. Okay, whatever the value comes, dilip@gmail.com. So in this position, that will is always comes here, and from there it is replacing here. Finally, this email will contain dilip@gmail.com, suresh@gmail.com, naresh@gmail.com. Whatever the real content you are sending, always it will always comes into this variable level that you are passing to the service layer. So this is what called as path variable. So what are the rules and regulations? What are the limitations for the path variables? How many path variables we can define? These are all details we'll discuss tomorrow. I'll take few more examples. We can define multiple path variables. So until this, just practice. Let's do one thing. Open the Swagger UI first. See how it is showing in the Swagger API also. If you see here, what is this guys? Swagger API document very clearly saying This REST service, third REST service is always having a path variable called as email ID. Second REST service doesn't have any parameters. I mean any path variables. Third REST service is having path parameter, path variable. What is that path variable? Email ID. Now front end team will understand, oh okay. So here I have to pass always a real value. This is a static URI path. There is no change. But after info slash, I have to pass always a real value. Now click on this, try it out. So it is asking as a text box, right? Let's give dilip@gmail.com. Execute it. What you got? All Dilip information. No, we have Dilip mail ID or what? Okay. Okay, Dilip. Yeah, so you don't have Dilip, right? So you got null. Generally, what you written here? Yeah, you written null. So user information point of view, you got null. That's why, see, Dilip is not there. That's why I got null. If I given Dilip 123, you got all Dilip information. See here, Dilip@gmail.com, Dilip Singh, mobile number, passwords, all the information I got. Now, generally, you have to pass same thing from the postman means new HTTP localhost colon 8899/API slash come back here. See, by using this document, you can understand load user info is common. So load user info is common. It's a fixed path. But after info, what you have to give? You have to give a real value. Suresh@gmail.com. See, you got all the Suresh information. If you given Alice, you got all Alice information. If you given something like Suman or whatever it is, some XYZ I given, you don't have. That's why you got what? Empty. I'm returning null means empty. There is no data with Suman. Right? So like that, you are passing what? Path variable. Path variable point of view, you are passing that. See, this time there is no request body. If you observe or not, none. Request body, none. We don't have any request body. You are passing data via path variable. Now you can imagine, guys, what is this URLs now? Now, can I say this is a Instagram level, the backend REST service they implemented as a path variable or not? Now, is it a path variable or not? Profile ID, whatever it is, profile ID. Is a path variable or not now? So the moment I'm giving Dilip IT Academy, I'm getting Dilip IT. The moment if I given my own personal ID, I'm getting that. Right? If I given your Instagram ID, I'll see your information. Something like it's like whatever it is, it's underscore something like Suresh, whatever it is. I will get Suresh profile. So that means what happened? This is a path variable. This is a path variable. So that means see Instagram level also they are using path variables. Now not only that, you can understand lot of other websites also going further. Just observe Facebook point of view also see. If I given Dilip IT Academy, I will get Dilip IT Academy. If I given Suresh 123, I got Suresh 123 point of view information. See right, I got Suresh 123 information. So that means what's happening in this case? These guys are using what? Path variables. See how much real time things you are doing. So now this is what? Path variable. So they are created a REST service as a path variable in the backend as a profile ID. So now if you are sending Suresh, Suresh information will come, Dilip information will come, Naresh information will come. If something you given wrong, I mean, it's not there as of now in the Facebook database level, it's not there. Like ABC, DEF, something I given random. Assume it's not there. Then what they are saying? Not available. This content is not available at the moment. Same, right? No, empty means not available. Then they will display like in the front end level based on whenever they got empty response, then they will display like, okay, not available. So this is all about the path variables. So we discussed only one example, basic example. Tomorrow I'll introduce couple of other scenarios, couple of other examples related to path variables only, and we will take three more two or three more examples. So tomorrow we will see what are the rules and regulations around the path variable. Also, we will discuss tomorrow, guys. So you are clear with this concept? See, guys, you are completely working on real-time items now. I don't know whether how much serious you are taking. Completely, you are learning real-time things. I am already showing you Facebook, Instagram. I don't think, okay, so better than this, any real-time application, I can take a reference. Millions of users, and it's all a real-time project, worldwide application point of view. So think, that's why I told you, whenever you are working, going further, whenever you are using Instagrams, Facebooks, okay, whatever it is, whatever websites you are using, observe as a developer point of view how URLs are getting formed, okay, how things are happening. Start observing from today onwards. See here, what this is also what same thing, right? This is also path variable only. It is also channel name, channel ID or channel name, whatever it is they created in the backend, it doesn't matter for us. But ultimately, what channel name? So you can give Dilip IT Academy, you can give Suresh IT Academy, you can give Instagram, you can give your channel name. It will pick up always that respective channel information.